Wondering which iPhone you should buy? Should you go with the iPhone SE, the iPhone 7, the iPhone 7 Plus, or maybe even last year's iPhone 6s or 6s Plus? Not to mention the many colors, storage, pricing, and carrier options. There's a bunch of options out there. And so in this video, I'm going to show you which iPhone you should buy, which model, which color, which storage, all that stuff. I'm going to give you advice on all of that so you can pick the right iPhone for you. So let's get started with this iPhone buying guide. So the first thing you have to decide when buying an iPhone is which model you're going to buy. There's the iPhone SE, the iPhone 7, the iPhone 7 Plus, and also the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus that are all available right now here in late 2016. The main differentiator between these different models of iPhone is their screen size. There's the 4-inch iPhone SE, the 4.7-inch iPhone 7 and iPhone 6s, and the 5.5-inch iPhone 6s Plus and iPhone 7 Plus. So when choosing the model of iPhone, the first thing you need to decide is which screen size you want. This is the main thing that needs to influence your purchase. It doesn't matter how much storage you have, or how fast your phone is, how big the camera is, that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter if you're not happy with the screen size. So the most important thing is to get the screen size right first and then move on to the other specs. So the 4-inch iPhone SE is very pocketable. It's very easy to slip in and out of the pocket. It's very easy to use with one hand, especially if you have smaller hands. It's easy to do that. The bigger phones are still good for that, but the iPhone SE makes one-handed use super easy. So if you really value one-handed use and pocketability, then the iPhone SE with its 4-inch screen is a great way to go. Now the 4.7-inch screen of the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 6s is more of an in-between size. It provides more screen real estate than the iPhone SE, while still remaining portable and pocketable. Most people should be able to use it with one hand just fine without any issues. I was able to use it with one hand just fine. I could easily slip it into my pocket, pull it out, use it with one hand. So for the most part, it is still really easy to use one hand. It's still really portable, but it does give you more screen real estate and provides a nice screen size that's perfect for overall everyday use. The 5.5-inch screen of the iPhone 6s Plus and the iPhone 7 Plus, which is what I use personally as my iPhone every single day, day in, day out. This is the screen size I prefer. It's pretty big. Overall, it is a big smartphone. So this big screen means it's bigger in your pockets, bigger in your hand. It means it's not quite as easy to use one-handed as the other 4.7-inch and 4-inch models. For a lot of people, you may not even be able to reach the other corner of the screen with one hand. I've found myself I can reach all the corners of the screen with my hand, as you can see here, because I have bigger hands. But depending on your preferences, you may not like the iPhone 7 Plus or the iPhone 6s Plus just because of the one-handed use factor. There's also the pocketability of it. It does feel bigger in your pockets. For me, I wear jeans and cargo shorts, so it doesn't bother me. I can slip it in and out of those pretty easily, but it depends on, again, your preference. You may find it too big in your pockets or simply not fitting in your pockets, so it may be something you have to carry in a bag or a purse or that kind of thing. So this is a big size. So if you want this size, it is awesome, but if you don't like the size, then it sucks to have it for the duration of your iPhone use. So be sure that you like a bigger phone before you get this size. It is awesome for watching video, for playing games. Everything that you do on your phone is just more immersive, more exciting, kind of more fun, just being on that bigger screen. It's great for like taking pictures. It's a great viewfinder. Everything you do on it is just really good. But you have to be sure that you like the bigger screen, because if you don't and you're stuck with it, then it kind of sucks. So be sure that you like the bigger screen before you go for the 5.5-inch iPhone. Otherwise, the 4.7-inch iPhone is a good in-between between the two. It's not too small, not too big. Okay, so after you've chosen an iPhone screen size that you prefer, there's also some specs to consider. Now, like I said earlier, for the most part, you should decide which iPhone you're going to get based on the screen size, but in some cases, there are some specs that could push you if you're undecided to one model versus the other. So the first thing to consider is camera. On these models, the camera does differ. The iPhone SE, the iPhone 6s, and the iPhone 6s Plus all have the same camera. They're all going to produce pretty much the same results between those three. They basically have the same camera, same specs, all that stuff. The only difference is the 6s Plus has optical image stabilization, which can make low light pictures a little bit clearer and stuff because it is optically stabilized. But for the most part, that's not really a reason to choose a phone for the most part, unless you use the camera a ton. So basically consider the SE, the 6s Plus, and the 6s as having the same camera, so you don't have to worry about the cameras between there. But the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 7 Plus have brand new cameras with a wider aperture. They shoot in a wide color gamut, so overall the pictures are going to just come out better. They do have the same megapixels, but the camera quality is better between the 7 and the other 3 I just mentioned. Now the 7 Plus has a totally new camera. It has the same specs as the iPhone 7 on one lens, but it actually has 2 lenses. This has a telephoto lens on here, so you can zoom in 2 times, and this is optical zoom, not digital zoom. Now what this means is that you can get clear zoomed in shots at 2 times zoom And normally with digital zoom, it would become more blurry, not be as high quality, but with optical zoom, it would be just as high quality. So with the iPhone 7 Plus, you're getting a much better camera. You're also getting a bokeh or shallow depth of field effect that is normally found on high-end DSLRs. On the iPhone 7 Plus, you can use this depth of field effect, which will blur the background of your subject. Now, this is an artificial blur. It's not actually a real bokeh effect like you find on DSLRs, but it does look really cool and it does produce really cool results. So if you're into your iPhone's camera, you may want to consider the iPhone 7 Plus, even though it is bigger. If you're not naturally drawn to the 5.5 size, it is something to consider. So if you really care about the iPhone camera, definitely consider the iPhone 7 Plus. Decide if the amount of time you use the iPhone camera is worth spending the extra money and worth dealing with the larger screen size of the 5.5-inch model versus the 4.7-inch model, on which you would still get an extra camera, but the extra camera features in the 7 Plus are definitely enough for many people like me to go to the larger screen size. And in my case, I actually found I liked the extra screen size. So for me, it was a wash. But if you don't like the extra screen size, you may still want to consider it because of the extra camera. Now, besides camera, there's also performance to think about. The iPhone SE, the iPhone 6s, and the iPhone 6s Plus have the A9 chip from last year, which is still a really good chip. It's still really fast. And then the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus have the A10 chip. Now, for the most part, right now, you're not going to see a big speed increase between the two. There's going to be a slight difference, but you're not going to really notice that much. Either of these phones would be perfectly fine, great performers overall. But as you move down the line, a couple years in the future, you'll see the A9 chip starting to slow down before the A10 chip does. So that could mean a whole lot of software upgrades if you're planning on keeping your iPhone for a long time. This is definitely something to consider. So if you want the absolute fastest for the longest, the iPhone 7 or 7 Plus would be a good option. The iPhone 7 Plus also has 3 gigabytes of RAM versus 2 gigabytes on the iPhone 7 and 6s and 6s Plus. So that is also a quick thing to consider. But for the most part, all of them are going to perform well now. But if you're thinking about performance down the line, the 7 and 7 Plus are going to be the way to go for more future-proofing in terms of performance. Now, besides performance and camera, there's also some other important differentiators between all of these iPhone models. So the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus are this year's flagship. So that means they have all the latest performance improvements, all the latest enhancements, new features, all that stuff. They're the newest available. So if you want the best, the 7 and 7 Plus are a good way to go. The 6s and 6s Plus are cheaper, but they are last year's models, so that means they miss out on some of the features. The iPhone SE was actually released earlier this year, but because the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus weren't out yet, it basically got almost the same specs as the 6s and 6s Plus. So even though the SE is current, it's still getting basically last year's specs, except for one key difference. The iPhone SE does not have 3D Touch, so the 6s and 6s Plus are the ones you're going to have to get, or a 7 and 7 Plus if you want to use 3D Touch. Unfortunately, it's not available on the SE. The biggest main features that you'll be getting by going with this year's flagship instead of last year's flagship is going to be mainly a better performance, a better camera, as I mentioned those things before. You're also getting a better display, a new Force Touch home button which vibrates instead of clicks in, waterproofing of 1 meter up to 30 minutes, so this is mainly more splash resistance, but it does help. It's a nice precautionary thing to have on your iPhone. You're also getting stereo speakers and a slightly refined design with new color options. So not a ton of improvements, but there are certainly things that are important, that are nice features to have. So that is what you'll get if you go with this year's flagship instead of last year's flagship. So how much extra does it cost to get these features versus last year's model or the iPhone SE? Well, the iPhone SE starts at $399 for 16 gigabytes of storage and $449 for 64 gigabytes of storage. So the iPhone SE is a great budget option. The iPhone 6s starts at $549 for 32 gigabytes of storage and $649 for 128 gigabytes of storage. The 6s Plus is $649 for 32 and $749 for 128 gigabytes. So that's last year's flagship. This year's flagship iPhone 7 starts at $649 and goes at $749 and $849 for 128 and 256 gigabytes respectively. If you want the 7 Plus, it starts at $769 and adds $100 for each storage configuration, as do the others. So there's your pricing for all the different iPhone models. Basically, you're going to save $100 at each storage configuration by going for the 6s or 6s Plus over the 7 and 7 Plus. So you have to decide if those extra features are worth the extra $100, and also the kind of longevity, since they are a year newer. Most likely they're going to get a couple new software features and last a little bit longer than the 6s and 6s Plus. So that's up to you whether you want to spend the extra $100 on those extra features and that little bit of future proofing by buying this year's flagship instead of last year's. And speaking about storage configurations, that is also a big thing to decide when you're buying an iPhone. You don't want to get stuck with too little storage, but also you don't want to pay too much if you're not going to need it. So 16 gigabytes is the base of the iPhone SE only. The others start at 32 gigabytes. So overall, I would stay away from the 16 gigabyte iPhone SE unless you absolutely don't take many pictures at all and don't really want to download anything. You're just going to use social media and Twitter, Facebook, that kind of stuff, Instagram, or be texting and making phone calls. If that's all you're going to do with it, the 16 gig is fine. But overall, I would pay the extra money. The extra $50 is not much at all for the $449 64 gig one. Overall, I would pay that extra $50 to get 4 times the storage. It just makes sense. The same goes for 32 gigabytes. You can store a little bit more on the 32 gigabyte models. So if you don't do a ton of downloading, a ton of picture taking, that kind of stuff, then the 32 gig will work okay, but generally I recommend to spend the extra $100 to get that 128 gigabytes. That's 4 times the storage. 120 gigabytes is perfect for just about anyone. You can take a ton of pictures, download a bunch of music, a bunch of video, a bunch of games, and it'd be perfectly fine. The 256 gigabyte is really more, I'd say, of a niche type storage capacity. If you are a person who downloads a ton of stuff and likes to keep a ton of stuff on their phone, has huge libraries of media and a ton of games and that kind of stuff, then 256 gig is good to have, but for the most part, I would say 128 gigabytes works for the vast majority of people, and I would spend that extra $100 now because you won't be able to upgrade it later, so it's a good idea to have it, even if you don't need it, to have that 128 versus that 32. There are various color options for each different iPhone. There is gold, rose gold, silver, and space gray for the iPhone SE, iPhone 6s, and iPhone 6s Plus, and for the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus, there is gold, silver, rose gold, and then there is a new matte black color. It's just called black. It's a matte aluminum. It's a lot darker than the space gray options on the others, and there's also a jet black, which is a glossy black finish that is prone to scratching, but it does look really cool. Right now, jet black is in extremely high demand, so it's kind of hard to get at this point. By the time you're watching this video, maybe a couple months from when it was published, it probably will be widely available. So it really is a personal preference. The black bezel is available on the space gray, black, and jet black options. So if you like that black bezel, you need to get one of those colors, obviously, because the other colors have a white bezel. Rose gold is more pinkish color, so if you like that, that's a great option. The gold kind of is a standout color. Silver is kind of just a classic iPhone look. Looks kind of like a MacBook with that nice silver color. Space gray is kind of like a dark silver, but it's the only way to get the black front on those models that still have space gray. So if you want that black front, it is nice for watching video, playing games. It's less distracting, many people say, because it kind of just blends in with the black bars on movies or games. It's not doesn't quite pop out as much. So if you care about that, then I would go with an option that has the black front on it. So that's a quick word on color. A quick word on carriers. I'm not really going to make any carrier recommendations. I personally use Verizon. I don't have experience with all of them, so I can't really make a recommendation. Most likely, if you're watching this, you probably already have a carrier. What I can say is that be sure, obviously, you buy the iPhone. If you're buying it outright from Apple, which is the prices that I named, be sure that you obviously buy the right one that will work with your carrier. They have 4 options: AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint, and Verizon, so make sure you buy the one that will work with your carrier. You can also buy a SIM-free one and add your own SIM later, or just use it without a SIM if you're interested in doing that. And I also want to mention that the pricing that I named was for the full outright version, so you pay that for the iPhone and then you own it, and then you can activate it on the carrier, and you just have to pay monthly, obviously, for the monthly service on your carrier. But all the carriers also have an option where you can basically take that full price and they divide it by 24 and you pay a monthly installment plan. So if you're curious about the price of any of those prices that I named, you just divide it by 24, and then typically that is the monthly payment for installment plans over the course of 2 years. And then typically how it works is if you want to get a new iPhone, you can just pay the remaining balance of the full price of the iPhone and then get a new one right then. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility than into your contracts. It does end up being sometimes a little bit more expensive if you buy it outright than it was with the subsidized contracts. Makes it a little more complicated, but that is how it works now, just so you guys know. Whew, I think that covers everything. So there you have it, guys. That is my full iPhone buying guide. That's everything you need to know, all the decisions you need to make when buying a new iPhone here in late 2016. I hope this video has been super helpful for you. I hope I have helped you narrow down your iPhone buying decision, which storage, which color, all that stuff, and which model, which screen size you get. I hope this really helps you guys. I really enjoyed making this. I always enjoy giving you guys advice. If you have any specific advice trying to decide you're stuck between 2 different models, just let me know down in the comments and I'll give you my personal advice on what iPhone I think you should get. So again, thanks so much for watching. If you have not already subscribed to the channel, please do, so you don't miss out on any future geeky content like this. Please give me a thumbs up and comment if you liked the video. Thanks again, guys. God bless. Bye for now and have a great day.